All right, Eva.
Caroline.
Pithy Musings. Episode 3.
Episode 3. Welcome.
Welcome. So, episode 3, we're calling Passion Doesn't Equal Purpose. We're super, again, interesting topic that we'll dive into. Hopefully we won't do it in an hour and 8 minutes. You know, I had feedback yesterday that says, like, can't you shorten that up a little? I'm like, we're trying. We just can't seem to shorten it up. Have you got that feedback too?
Yeah, definitely some family members and whatnot. And at the same time, hearing some amazing feedback that clearly you and I have a lot of musings to share. And I've had some people go, I didn't even know it was an hour and 8 minutes. But I have had a couple of people be like,
Right.
Can we try and shorten it? So we'll do our best. We get passionate.
We'll do our best. We get excited.
Yeah.
Last time.
This is purpose work. This is connected to purpose work, which we'll talk about.
It totally is. So last time we gave away some mugs to the joyful glee of the recipients, at least the person that I sent.
Me too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I do have another mug. So maybe at the end, we can also offer up the mug.
Yeah, I got one too.
It's got some traction.
Oh, wait, it has.
Traction. Yeah.
Yes, we got 2. So yeah, we can share some ideas around that for sure.
So I always forget introductions. So I think we should likely start with introductions before we dive in. So for those people that are watching, listening, my name is Caroline Berglund, and I am the principal of an organization by the name of Talk, as well as a sister organization called the One Stop Special Needs Shop. I play in the arena of leadership, executive coaching, team development, and also in the arena of helping others be better public speakers. Eva, who are you?
So I'm Eva van Krugel, and I am the founder and leadership coach, team coach, facilitator of Fervor Leadership Coaching and Consulting, and serve leaders at all levels, teams experiencing all kinds of challenges and opportunities in communities near and far. Definitely grateful to have a community all over the map that makes this purpose work possible. So,
and we were just talking that we are both pretty busy right now.
Yeah.
You know, there was terms of getting up at 3 and 4 in the morning, and so I highlight it because it shows our commitment to do this work of Pithy Musings. We both see it as of value, and hopefully it's being valued out there. That's at least the feedback that I've been getting. I think today's episode is probably the most interesting and has probably the more depth than even where we've gone before. So the first episode, for those that haven't seen it, was called Everybody Has a Story. Mm-hmm. Second episode was around psychological safety. Man, that blew up. Like, people really had a lot to say about that particular. And I do see that each episode is now becoming intertwined, like one's feeding off to the next. Now we have lots of ideas of future ones, but it's almost like the past. We're almost building like a novel. I feel it. Like chapter 1, chapter 2, now we're going into chapter 3. And although we have a million ideas, we don't actually know what chapter 4 is until we've actually completed this process.
Yeah.
Much like before we dive in, the first 2 episodes, we don't do a practice. We kind of have some notes going back and forth. We really don't know what the other person is going to say. You're going to see a ton of imperfection. This is not polished. It's not supposed to be polished. We want it to come across as authentic. And it's the antithesis of what I would call corporate speak. So when we envisioned the Pithy Musings, I think we thought, I don't want it to come across like a webinar or, some scripted, like I've got a lot of paper around here, but nothing scripted. And so I asked Eva, what was the corporate speak word that she hates the most? And she said leverage. So I'll hold you to task if you ever say leverage. Last time I said synergy, but there's a gajillion out there. And by the way, if there's a word out there that you can't stand from the corporate world, then let us know. And we'll make sure not to say that as well.
Yeah, it's straight talk, real talk. And, Pithy Musings is connected to your purpose, my purpose. We've talked about that. And it's true. Our businesses are extremely busy right now. And that is a beautiful problem to have. But, I woke up this morning and at a very early hour and I look at the Samsonites under my eyes. That's a good ad for Samsonite. And, and I'm thinking, but there's no way. And I remember you and I having a conversation. Should we do this?
Yeah.
If we've got so much going on, and we both just agreed, this is too important. We love this work. And I know we'll talk about each of our purposes, but this is all about putting the funk back into being human and our contrarian musings. And what we're noticing, the subject matter we're bringing to the table is based on that which is thematic out there in the universe. And we're seeing lots of conversation, and it's got sticky factor, curiosity factor, diverging points of view. What's really cool is some of the stuff that we're sharing and we're bringing forward as topics in Pithy Musings. The volume's going up on some of it, and the importance of it for us in our work and what we're seeing with our clients is going up. So we want to talk about it and share.
And I would add to that and say, this isn't just about musings in the corporate world or organizations. We've very consciously said that this is personal and professional. So we'll dive into personal top tips, we're calling them at the end, and as well as organizational or leader tips at the end, because I don't think you can remove the two anymore. I think we need to look at people as a whole human individual. In my organization, Talk, I spent weeks coming up with something called a unique value proposition and then an employee value proposition. And it took me a long time because that's hard work to do. Mm-hmm. But before I dive into that, I wanted to go somewhere first. I'm always doing that to you, aren't I? Before I do that, let me dive into this. Because I think it's important to kind of define what purpose is. So when we say passion doesn't equal purpose, what
do we mean?
That's the name of this episode.
Yeah.
So you had told me about a quiz that you did, I think it was last week, and it's called Purpose in Life Quiz. And we'll provide you the link of where to get it.
Yeah.
But I got my results, and in that results page, it gave, I thought, a really beautiful definition of purpose that I'd like to share with you here. Purpose is an abiding intention to achieve a long-term goal that is both personally meaningful and makes a positive mark on the world. The goals that foster a sense of purpose are ones that can potentially change the lives of other people, like supporting your company's mission, creating art, or teaching kids to read. Mm-hmm. So that's their definition of purpose. What do you think of that?
What I love about it is it doesn't negate the importance of having goals.
Yeah.
It's that the goals are anchored in a sense of purpose, meaning, contribution, and something that unites personal purpose, corporate purpose, is that sense of meaning and contribution and helping others, that there's something foundational in that alone. So I love that. And you and I both did the quiz. Mm-hmm. So tell me what your score was and what popped up for you when you did that.
I don't know if you can see that. 68 out of 70.
Yeah. Okay. Which is astonishing.
You know what's interesting, Eva, and I want to hear what your score is that had I done that 9 months ago,
Mm.
I don't think it would have been 68. So 68 score out of 70 means I have high purpose,
Yes.
really strong understanding of why I exist and what we're doing here.
Yes.
And you had an equally great score of.
Well, my score was a 61 out of 70. What was funny is I thought it's only 61 because I think that I'm living a very purpose-driven life. And I've made some huge decisions, changes, sacrifices in my whole orbit in the past 5 years. I'm pretty sure there's some folks out there who are like, has she lost her mind to walk away from the corporate world and start her own coaching practice, right? For me, that was purpose work. And in building this business and living my day-to-day and my purpose work with a clear articulated purpose, really spot on. So 61 out of 70, I'm like, it should be 70. However,
that's the competitive side in you, Eva. I don't think I'm a competitive I didn't person. Score high enough. I didn't get an A+++.
Oh, well, I'm a full on, like, in the positive intelligence work you and I are both familiar with, I'm a full on hyperachiever. So I'm always like, I want, very high standards. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
What's really interesting when we think about the ingredients of that purpose quiz, though, meaningful contribution, having those goals and that clear vision for the future, feeling enthusiastic about that vision, learning something new all the time, being able to connect that sense of meaning in your day-to-day, knowing that we're helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think I got stuck was, so I'm celebrating all of it. And where I think I got stuck was as this business gets busier and busier, what shifts do I need to make in delivering on the day-to-day that enable me to heighten that purpose? Right. And so it gets into things like, maybe there's some delegation and partnership opportunity to expand. So, when you looked at yours, you had a ton of alignment. Were there any sort of something that I can continue to work on with intention?
It's an interesting question. And honestly, the answer is no. Because I feel as though I've thrown the train on the right track. And one of the things we've talked about in the past and also at some point during the course of today was we always say woohoo hippie, but let's not do that. Let's throw those terms around. But I do a lot of meditation in the morning. And that's how I start my day in terms of alignment to my purpose. So I think my intention is very clear. Doesn't mean that that's not going to change or evolve over time, or I'm not going to have to course correct. I think absolutely 100% I will. But for today, I feel very much on the purpose journey. And likely one of the reasons why we're talking about it is it's so important to both of us personally. Mm-hmm. How about for you?
Oh, for sure. I feel like mine should be a 70 out of 70 because and I
agree.
I feel very, very, very grounded in sense of purpose in my day-to-day, and what a gift that is, and a huge mountain to climb to get to that. And I wouldn't change a thing about it. The only thing, in today, probably where I got a 61 out of 70 is, as I say before, I could probably, ask for help a little bit more so that the day-to-day is more connected to meaning and tied into best strengths.
So tell me about that mountain to climb and what your purpose is.
Yeah. And back at you, sister. So mine is my purpose, and I believe articulating it, doing some work, putting some energy, creativity, time into articulating it is a really important and powerful exercise. I also think my integrity in my business is I'm never going to offer a client any resource or idea unless I've done the work myself. And I am noticing in the world around us, there is an onslaught of conversation with leaders wanting to uncover sense of purpose. And I don't know if it's life stage. I don't know if it's pandemic. I don't know if it's both, but it is an onslaught. People were coming in the door wanting to develop. They're on a new team and all these different dynamics. And then they're wayfinding in their lives, whole person philosophy. What am I doing all this for? I'm so exhausted. Why am I doing this? What the heck am I doing here? Maybe I should get a new job. Maybe I should go do a master's. Maybe. Whoa. So, and what I notice is before you make those choices, have you ever done any work to articulate your purpose and your values? And then how do those choices live in alignment with? It's an important anchor. So getting back to, I had that existential moment. And fast forward some years later, mine is to enrich the lives of others, to enable them to contribute to significantly healthier leadership, workplace cultures, and communities. Simply put, significantly healthier communities. And the knock on my door was the very thing that my clients are talking to me about. There's something underneath the waterline. And it keeps knocking on the door and we deny it. And we keep going in pursuit of goals, passion, which can be important and can be short-lived if not anchored in meaningful purpose.
Can I pause you there because I think for viewers and listeners, because I was struggling this for a while, and I wouldn't mind, and again, I still want to hear your purpose. But I think there's a distinction between passion and purpose that's important to talk about right now, which passion I see as it's a short-term view. I'm passionate about this. I'm super passionate about this.
Yeah.
Where purpose is really rooted in a more long-term strategy or view of yourself, your organization, team, whatevs.
Yes. Full agreement.
Okay.
Full agreement. And, so mine being about, enriching the lives of others for significantly healthier leadership and in community, that transcends space and time. Even in a pandemic, can I go and live in alignment with that? Absolutely. Does it mean how I deliver against that in my personal life and in my professional life? It may mean how I deliver on it might shift, but it still stands true. It's guided by my, in positive intelligence, we talk about the wiser elder self, guiding us and not having regret. Totally baked into it. My wiser elder self is guiding me to live in alignment with that. And if I don't live in alignment with it, who do I know? And it's a compass point. But how I came to it was a journey. There's lots of methods, tools, all this stuff, but I literally turned it into a personal branding mission. What was my value proposition in this life?
That's the marketing in you coming out.
I know, right? I know. I should put some dollar bills in the jar for any jargon. But I literally looked at myself as a personal brand.
Yeah.
And, what is that personal brand? And there was a bunch of back end work and some qualitative research and interviewing people in my community to figure that out. So the how, there's all sorts of beautiful, wonderful method, distilling it and getting there and then arriving and then living in alignment with it. I didn't do that work alone. I did not do that work alone. I have had community. I have had, right. And I have enlisted, of course, I'm going to say this. I've enlisted a couple of coaches who were absolutely foundational in supporting me to step into living it. It's one thing to write it out and arrive at it. Now living it is a whole other courage move. Now over to you. I would love to hear your purpose and how you arrived at it.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about coaches because we were both coaches.
Yeah.
In the line of work that we do. And I think people fail to realize that coaches need coaches as well.
Absolutely.
Right. So I had a coach and still have a coach that I started working with, I guess about 9 months ago. And even as a coach, I was like, I don't know, like, how's this gonna, what's this process going to be all about, right? Like I kind of know all the tricks, right?
Yeah.
And I was dumbfounded at how wonderful that relationship was and is. Shout out to you, Mona. Um, she would say to me, you know, I'm the container for your ideas. And she was so much, and she is so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But what she really drilled into me, and I say drill, she's the softest, kindest, largest F on the planet. We're both ENFJs, right?
F meaning feeler, like we make
Feeler.
decisions with our hearts.
Not, yes.
We care about the
yes.
feeler. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful human being. But what she really brought to my attention in a meaningful way at a time that I needed to hear it, so it's like the cosmos were aligned, was you need purpose in your life. Because one of the things I think I've said it in another episode, I'll say it again. I'm fond of saying it, I've got this existential angst, right? Like, what is the meaning of life? And I likely said that to her many times. And so as we were exploring setting up Talk again for the second time, and she was coaching me through that, she said, well, where's the purpose in Talk? I can't let you get away with not having a purpose here. And she was absolutely right, because having a business for me is not, again, about amassing a bigger house, nicer car, bigger disco ball. It has to be tied to purpose. Now, it's not about leaving a legacy. Like people think, oh, well, you want to be famous, infamous, whatever. No. I want to know that my footprint on this planet actually made a difference. Mm-hmm. So we started working on that. And it was out of that the one-stop special needs shop was born, because ultimately my purpose is to help, period. Help in organizations, teams, individuals, and now help rooted in my own experience, those that have special needs children and support around that. Mm-hmm. So when I look at that UVP that I told you took me weeks, and I have an entire page dedicated to UVP and EVP on my website, as I mentioned, if I just read the first paragraph of my UVP is learning is our passion, transformation is our result. Here's the kicker. We actually believe that kindness is the secret sauce to transformation. Paying attention to the human side of organizational change is paramount. It's what I'm all about. There might be a bunch of process that we'll use, but I always will have an eye on the human side.
Absolutely.
Of people, organizations, and teams. It's my focus. Mm-hmm. It's my drive. It's my purpose.
I think you and I have connected on that shared philosophy and value system too, even to the extent of calling, the Pithy Musings, putting the funk back into being human.
Yeah.
We want people to live in alignment with sense of belonging, to feel supported. Yeah, I love the work that you've done there. And, my sense is you've put incredible time, energy, and love, thought into that. UVP, EVP stand for those who may not know?
Unique value proposition. So what sets you apart from the competition, if you will? And then that's kind of a broad statement. And then employee value proposition, EVP, is how do I attract people into this organization if they want to work here? What are our values around that? And you talk about, took me a long time. I have an entire notebook filled with doodles, because we'll talk about values in a second, but one of my values is around creativity. I have to be creative. It's something. So you were commenting, I've got like Post-it, what are those called? Flip chart Post-it things. They're all over this wall with roadmaps, and I've got books that are filled with drawings. So I have an entire book that was dedicated to trying to figure out who am I? Like, what am I really doing here? So it was an exercise that I took quite seriously. And what I liked about what you were saying before around the wiser self, I think this is a tangible something that viewers and watchers can take away is, and this is what I did in that book, I envision myself 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. my wiser self? What do I look like 10 years from now? And how do I start that journey? Whether, and how do I start today? Not just pontificating and philosophizing about it. Like, how do I actually start doing this stuff? And it's almost like I was crawling, trying to figure it out. And I'm still trying to figure it out, by the way. I don't have everything figured out. But I think that's a really interesting exercise that a lot of folks can undertake if they are listening to us and watching us and going, well, where do you even start?
Mm-hmm. Well, in the value proposition piece, what I love is that you've done it for, how the organization serves in the world.
Yeah.
And in terms of those who will help support delivery in how you show up in the world.
Right.
So, value proposition is we hear it in this book here, Conscious Leadership, written by 3 authors, John Mackey, Steve McIntosh, Carter Phepps. They talk about value proposition, connecting in.
I haven't read that.
I've mentioned, we've talked about, we have book problems, where there's like 13 at a time and reading a chapter here, a chapter there, and bookmarking it, making.
There's a couple I pulled for today's episode, right, from the library.
Yeah. And Carolyn, for those that may not know, Carolyn actually has a library in her house. She's such an avid reader.
With one of those real working ladders. It's really cool.
Oh, you do? Oh, we need photos.
Yes.
One of the things these authors, and they talk about elevating humanity through business. So right away, I'm like, ooh, that's putting the funk back into being human. I got to check this out. So I'm not all the way through it. They talk about the value of value proposition. So whether or not it's for the organization and for the employees, distinguishing between the two, really, really important. Very, very connected to value creation, connected in with the core essence of purpose. It's all intertwined.
What is also intertwined, and I think is often glossed over, are a couple terms, which is vision and mission.
Oh yeah.
People go, oh God, we're going to talk about, you think about, you walk into a store and they've got their vision plastered in the background. Yeah. It's words on a page, but it's not actually socialized into the culture of the organization. And so for organizations to drive purpose-driven work, that has to be not just words that are created, but that become living, breathing entities within the organization. I'll give you an example. And I don't think it'll be any surprise to those that are getting to know me that I'll talk about Eunice Kennedy Shriver. So for those that don't know, she is the founder of Special Olympics. And she founded Special Olympics in the late 60s. And what I think a lot of people don't know is that one of the reasons why she founded that was because she had a sister, Rosemary, that had an intellectual disability. So I think a lot of the supporters in that milieu have some kind of connection to other that they see are being discriminated against or whatever. If you think about the purpose of that organization, the vision of that organization, it couldn't be any more loud. We are going to give opportunity to those that have intellectual disability, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to show them that they too can be successful through sport, friendship, kinship, whatever. It couldn't be any more clear to me. The purpose, not to make money. The purpose is to do good in the world.
Yes.
And do you think that Eunice Kennedy Shriver wanted to be put on a plaque somewhere? Doubtful. Mm-hmm. She wanted to do that, probably rooted in her sister, mm-hmm. who likely didn't have the opportunities that her and her other siblings did. Mm-hmm. Organizations that are resonating with you as it relates to purpose.
Well, I love that. And what I also love about a really clear, distilled, meaningful purpose in an organization is when we bring in the voices of the ecosystem inside and out to inform it and co-create it. And I think when we're able to do that, it makes operationalizing and socializing it, there's just more passion behind it, more sustainable passion and belonging in it. We see ourselves in it. If we can't see ourselves in it and it's been done behind a closed door without those voices, I also have a bit of a bias that I've adopted from the work of Dr. Peter Hawkins, who does deep work in systemic team coaching. And he talks about the ecosystem also includes other living beings. We must also tune into for a sustainable future. So, in purpose work, how might we integrate those voices as well? And he and others who do that work are huge proponents of build up purpose, and knowing purpose is a core tenet of a successful team led with value creation and contribution, and organizationally.
So let me ask you this. Then if purpose in an organization, I know we're going from organization to team to individual.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Yeah. But if purpose is really critical to organizational success, however success is defined, why is it not talked about or measured? I mean, we talk about strategic planning work, but
yeah.
But why is it not, like you said, behind closed doors? Like, why is it not more overt? This is our purpose, folks. I'm curious what you think about that.
Why it's not being prioritized as much.
Yeah.
I think there's a volume going up on the importance of it. So, in some cases, maybe it's people stuck in the formality and protocol of vision and mission. Yeah. And there's a part of me in any strategy facilitation work I ever do, there's a part of me that wants to challenge vision and mission, what we strive to be and what we strive to do. I kind of want to throw it out the window. Yeah. And I want to get grounded in purpose.
Well, here's one of my concerns for organizations, and just, doing some preparatory work for today and really trying to figure out, like, what's my point of view. There's a generation out there, the Gen Zs, that are very different than the rest. I'm an X. I think you're an X.
Yep.
This is a generation that is entering into employment based on, well, what are you all about, company?
That's right.
What's your point of view on, like, climate change? Are you throwing stuff into the landfills? What are you doing as it relates to donation? I mean, they are a really interesting, fascinating generation.
Absolutely.
That are entering into the workforce, and they're going to drive this. So if you're a CEO or an executive in an organization and you happen to be watching and listening to this, remember that Gen Z community is going to demand that from your organization, or they won't work for you.
I love that you're bringing it up. I've watched some organizations have real resistance to it and be patronizing and dismiss those views.
Yep.
And then we're watching some other organizations who I would argue are more progressive and are more future focused and are more conscious in their leadership and cultures that they're building. And they are listening to the needs of employees today and of the future, the younger generation who will be CEOs in the next 10 years.
Right.
And in their 30s. And they want meaning and sense of belonging. They want to love who they are when they're with people and in their surroundings, and they darn well want contribution. And if they can't get it, they're going to go somewhere else. So,
and the risk there is that, and I want to go somewhere else, will be the top talent, right? They'll be the highly talented folks that you want to work for your organization. Another thing that generation, I did a series of just one-on-one informational interviews with several people in that generation, just to understand the voice, like, right? Like, what's the voice?
Love it.
And this is when we were in the office. And I had
like 50 years ago. Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
But I had a Gen Z come in, and I had a traditional office with 4 walls and a door and, window, and sat down and said, like, hey, what do you think about coming to work for something like this, like doing something like this?
Yeah.
Without hesitation, Eva, this beautiful young gentleman says to me, are you kidding me? You want me to come here 9 to 5? I wasn't offering him a job. We were just philosophizing. But you want to come here, me to come here 9 to 5 under these fluorescent lights?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
no flexibility. I'll tell you what. You tell me what the desired end goal is, and I'll go pitch a tent in Tuktoyaktuk or wherever the heck I want to, and I'll still deliver on those goals. They have a very now, for those Gen Zs watching, I might have this a bit wrong, but I think the essence of what I'm saying is this rigidity, this, not working from home, this lack of purpose-driven connection to the work. They won't stand for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think we're seeing, so it gets to passion doesn't equal purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It gets right back to that. You can be like, we're working on this, we're working on that. We've got a new product, we've got a new service, we are getting things done. Awesome. That's so great. Kudos, high fives. And how does it serve some kind of higher ground? How does it serve the people inside and out and the other living beings? And how does it serve into the future? So you asked about a couple of examples of purpose statements that I noticed. One, and they're so simple.
Yep.
They're beautifully simple.
Yep.
I have to wonder, in their simplicity and their elegance and their meaning, do they need to be? Do they transcend time and space? So for example, and I'll share what I mean by that. So Whole Foods purpose, and of course I found this one in the Conscious Leadership book, to nourish people and the planet.
Mm. Yep.
Through, where they source from, and through, the product, non-GMO and organic. And
so, and just to add to that, because I'm thinking broader statement, purpose-driven, beautiful, simple statement. Mm-hmm. But what fuels that statement is also that organization's, Whole Foods, values.
Yes, for sure. They're all interconnected, and we should definitely touch on values. And one other I want to share is TED Talks.
Yeah.
Few words, spread ideas.
Yeah.
Right? So
ideas that matter. Yeah.
That's right. And so when we think about leading and living in uncertainty and complexity and change, do these serve during a pandemic, some of the biggest change our globe has ever experienced in unison? Why the heck not? I think that's one of the beautiful things about having a defined, clear purpose that brings your people along with you inside and out. It supports us navigating total uncertainty and complexity and change. It's just how we deliver on it might shift. Do we eventually need to revisit purpose? Maybe. Have conditions changed that we need to do that? Maybe. But overall, the Whole Foods purpose statement, TED Talk, that's been there for years.
Yeah, and it almost feels like a cause, right? A charter in which those organizations make decisions, whether they're hiring decisions, who are we bringing into the organization, how are we developing them, how do we exit them out of the organization? It's that whole employee experience thing. That purpose statement, value proposition, all of that informs everything.
And I think, so then if I'm an employee and I'm thinking about, to nourish people on the planet, if I'm an employee, we can see it turning into, what are my contribution spaces to see to it that my role supports nourishing people on the planet?
Yeah.
How will I express my unique talents in order to serve that? And then to get back to the values piece, what are the values that enable living in alignment with serving that purpose? Lots and lots of organizations talk about values and don't necessarily operationalize them, meaning that we're held accountable. We know what they mean. We know what they mean on an individual level and as a collective, and we know how to live in alignment with them. We're even measured against them. We're held accountable for them.
Mm-hmm.
In our personal lives, I think about values too. Boy, that is sure coming up as a topic. Like, I don't know if I'm really clear on my values, or a list of like 8 things that I value. Okay, beautiful. You're starting to get onto something here. In some of my Dare to Lead work, there's an exercise where we'll have you within half an hour, we'll have you down to 2. So
What?
2 values.
Okay.
And so my top 2.
Yeah.
I want to hear your top 2. My top 2, and I am very, very, very clear on these, and increasingly rigorous around living in alignment with them. One is integrity and one is courage. Courage, meaning brave. I will take the brave path, even if it's, unpopular, but it's the right thing to do. Connected to integrity too. I want to do the right thing. I will always do the right ethical thing, even if it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Your values, and what are you noticing about values connected to purpose?
I didn't know you were going to ask me that, and the top of my head, and I never know what you're going to ask me, but I think it's all the things that I've already talked about. Kindness. Mm-hmm. So if I see, if I'm being treated unkindly or others I'm observing are unkindly, it is no longer allowed in my orbit. So I'll call it out. I'll name it. This is new for me, because you teach others how to treat you. We've talked about that. So kindness is a core value that is incredibly important. The other core value I have might be interesting to say this is creativity.
Oh, I see that in you. Absolutely. There's one other too I want to offer, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think, can't wait. Creativity, I realize that when I am not in a creative space, or I'm not afforded the luxury because of time or whatever, I'm out of alignment. Mm-hmm. It's such a strong core part of who I am and how I think that, so what's the third one that you think that you see?
Well, it's a word that I've heard you use many, many times. And I think one of the words that has meaning that also unites you and I, and it's the word trust.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we spent an entire episode playing with that in psychological safety, right? It's pretty critical. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking about? Taking it to the individual. I know we were talking about organizations, but if you think about individuals, and I don't want this to be morbid, but like I think about like, what if you were faced, this is again my existential angst, like, there's 2 books that I wouldn't mind exploring with you. One, and I feel bad for a couple of my workshops early on, I used to give this as kind of post reading, and it's not light. Nothing like a little Tolstoy to to punctuate your day. But he's revered for all of these big meaty works like War and Peace. But what I like about his writing is actually in his short stories. So he has a collection of short stories that I think are magnificent. And one of my favorite short stories I've ever read is called The Death of Ivan Ilyich. And in it, just a quick synopsis is, Ivan Ilyich finds himself on his deathbed. And he doesn't know if he has hours or days to die. And in that moment, you can feel the emotion in his writing where he's like, what was this all about? Did I marry the right person? Did I raise my kids right? I didn't even like being a lawyer. Mm-hmm. What was that all about? And it's just this agitation. And so when I think about purpose, My greatest fear is to get to that deathbed and not have found what I'm supposed to be here, because I might end up like this dude
Hmm.
who looks back at a life that lacked purpose. Now, not everybody needs a massive purpose here. That's not what we're saying at all. But I'm saying for those that this is resonating for,
Yeah.
that going through the exercise of figuring out like why you've been put on the planet can, I'm not going to say happy, because I don't think purpose equals happy either. I think purpose is bigger than that. I think, actually, here's a quote: the purpose of life is not to be happy. I don't know if I agree with that, but it is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference, that you have lived and lived well. That's Ralph Waldo Emerson. So I don't think he's saying don't be happy. I think there's joy, which is different than happiness, found in purpose life.
Yeah. Which I think comes, simply put, I think we're talking about a meaningful life.
Yeah.
An intentional, meaningful life.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're reminding me of this beautiful Japanese concept, Ikigai. Here comes book. There it is, beauty. And if you look it up, Ikigai, Ikigai, there's just a colossal amount of just beautiful material out there. And there was an article I ran across from Josh Sultan of The Medium. And he says, there's real power in knowing and living your purpose. Ikigai, which is another word simply put for purpose, is about finding something that you love to do, can be paid to do, think that the world needs, are really good at. And Ikigai is also connected to finding your self-acceptance. So self-acceptance, self-worth, love for self. And so there's this saying, and I think I may have said it before. It's one of my favorite sayings. You got to love who you are when you're with people. I would say you got to love who you are when you're with people and in what you're doing. We know when we're doing something or we're being in the world and our energy goes up. We could be fatigued and exhausted. I may have taken on one too many coaching clients one day because I
remember that day.
Oh, I know. And I know my Samsonites were extra visible, and I may be super, super fatigued, yet my energy is strong because I was living in alignment with purpose. I won't do that many in one day again, for sure. But there's something to be said for when your energy lights up, you know.
Yeah, like have you ever, I'm sure you've had this experience, right? Where you're in a team or you're in a room and someone walks in and they just have this something where they walk out of the room. I call it like perhaps highly engaged is another way to frame that. That they walk out of the room and you kind of go, who is that? How do I get on a team with them? I feel so alive. I think that's what you're talking about is that energy. It's not something that's tangible, but you're attracted to that human being and you want to be in their orbit.
I think that's a person who sometimes I think it goes way deeper than charisma. I think it's someone who is living a conscious life and leading accordingly. They know who they are. They know what they're made of.
Yes.
They know what they gravitate towards, and they're clear and intentional.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that is deeply connected to purpose.
I just want to go back to Ikigai because I read something that I think just to punctuate, and that's that diagram that you're talking about for our viewers and watchers.
Yeah.
And you can look it up and they've got those concentric circles. But for Japanese people, Ikigai is a much broader concept and one that is rooted in our everyday lives. Ikigai might be our work, yes, but it can also be a hobby, our loved ones, or something as simple as enjoying the company of friends. So what I wanted to make sure that our viewers notice, we're not just talking about work. Ikigai you might not have necessarily purpose in work, but you can find that outside of work, in hobby, in community, in relationships.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it's reminding me there's a gentleman on LinkedIn, David Marlowe. He calls himself the Ikigai guy.
I think I've seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of those loyal pen pals out there, and have definitely bonded and respect one another for our content. And I really love the Ikigai guy and how he goes super deep into it. And so, he's a neat one to follow for some of the work that he posts. And you'll see lots of extensions of Ikigai as a resource there. One other thing too, we talk about bridging from organizations to community. Well, is it different in community? Is it different if you're part of a volunteer organization? I would say a lot of the principles we're talking about are the same.
Yep.
We all want to be part of something that is going somewhere that we believe in, that we feel we can be uniquely part of, that is contributing in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And
I think it comes down to this very basic notion, is that we all want to be valued and we want to be of value. And that's being driven by our purpose. I don't know if you've read the book, The Last Lecture, Randy Pausch. That's another book I used to give away in workshop. That one's a little bit more digestible than Tolstoy. But it is a beautiful book where he does a last lecture. Now, last lecture is kind of, apparently in the academic world, is something that you do at the end of your career. And it's kind of your final talk. You kind of amass what you've learned. Isn't that cool? I think we should do that. Oh, you kind of amass everything that you've learned up to this point, and you create a final talk with your key learnings about life. So
I'm going to make a note because I have a thought on that. Yeah.
Yes. And so he did a talk called Achieving Your Childhood Dreams. Now, there's the talk is on, I think TED or YouTube. So look it up. I'm telling you, I give this book away to so many people, but this guy, again, I'm not trying to bring the morbidity here, but here I go.
It's real. It's life cycle.
Yeah. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, didn't have a lot of time. And so again, faced with what was this all about, he creates this talk around, being playful. And if I had done it over again, my values likely would have been different. I would have put more emphasis on family and friends and all of that. I think that's what we're talking about here, is that identifying purpose for yourself, for your team, or for your organization becomes the secret sauce to igniting oneself and igniting an organization to whatever that goal is. In the absence of having purpose, it feels hollow.
Well, it's also and it's not sustainable.
No.
If we focus on, I think you and I've talked about this before, if we focus on profits and operational excellence and the list goes on, and we're not connecting in with core purpose, and we're not empowering people to live in alignment with it, and to deliver in it, and to know their self-worth in it, and all of that.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. If we lead with purpose and desire for contribution, and it's well-informed and co-created by voices inside and out, the profits come. I know that it's more complex than that, and I'm oversimplifying it, but the profits come. The operational stuff, maybe the way that we even approach how we make the profits, and how we govern, and how we operate, all of it, maybe it comes more intuitively and seamlessly because it's all interconnected with a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
So again, this is probably an unpopular view. And some people may feel more connected to the traditions of vision and mission and more traditional protocol. I'm of the mindset, especially over this past year, the pandemic has taught us a lot.
Yes.
And I'm of the mindset that if we have clear purpose defined in our lives and inside organizations and in teams, we can get through uncertainty and complexity. We can get through hard moments in our personal lives. We can be guided through living in community in more conscious ways. So I would be that person who would say, throw the vision and mission out the window. You don't need all of that. Focus on purpose.
Yeah.
That right.
Yeah.
And the vision is connected into that.
Mm-hmm.
The mission will feed into that. Get the purpose right, and then see what else you need to go make that happen.
100% agree. So I'm just looking at the time. So once again, and again, I really do believe we could go for another hour, 2, 10, whatever. But let's attempt to wrap up what I think was a very cerebral conversation.
What we do.
What's that?
Well, it's what we do. And yeah, absolutely. Let's get to the wrap up. And I feel a sense of responsibility to touch on the last talk thing that you brought up.
Oh, yes.
So the idea of doing a last talk.
Yes.
Your very last talk and leaving
Yes.
whatever. I love that idea. And it struck an idea in me as a really neat, creative, reflective, introspective exercise that someone could go play with to inform their purpose, where not to be morbid, but it's your last talk, you're on a stage in a podium, whatever the scenario is, paint the picture for what you look like and where you are.
Yeah.
So speaking of creativity, use your creativity. If you think you're not creative, I challenge you, and I think you are creative. We are all fundamentally creative in different ways.
In different ways. Yeah.
And literally write your last speech.
Yeah.
Who have you been? Who have you connected with and contributed to? And what were your accomplishments, proud moments, learnings, experiences, observations, failures? Like, what's your last talk? And what do you pull from that is indicative of your core essence in who you are in this world and your contribution? Like, I think there's an interesting precursor exercise that someone could explore. Had to throw that out there.
Well, and again, like I said last time, I feel a workshop coming on, because what a cool workshop would that be, right? The last lecture. Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
right?
it could be also very moving. It would
be incredibly moving. Well, Eva, I really hope that you watch that talk and you get the book. Or actually, I have many copies of this, so don't worry, I'll go send you one. But go and watch it, because I think you'll be utterly moved in every way as you're watching it.
I'm writing it down.
Crying, laughing, the whole spectrum.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Wrapping up. So, do we want to go to some of our top takeaways for folks?
Let's distill this down. One came to mind. I know we kind of played around with some of these in advance, but I'm going to go off script. And
this whole thing is off script,
right? Massive fan of the Greek philosopher. Massive fan of the Socrates. Also dig the Aristotle and Plato, but really massive fan. So I know, nerd.
No, love it. Bring it.
But Socrates said something that I think is pertinent to this conversation. And it's a famous quote, which is, "The unexamined life isn't worth living." And so what I would say is, for a tip, examine where you are And as you said, the wise self, that person that, looking into the, next 10 years, who's that person that you want to be? And how does that inform your purpose, your values? And will that get you closer to not necessarily happiness, as Edmondson said, but joy and fulfillment? So know yourself, dig into it. That would be my tip.
Yeah. And I would say, on a personal, when it comes down to defining your personal purpose, I really love, I think there's deep wisdom and amazing legacy in the Ikigai model, whatever you want to do with it, however you want to translate it for yourself. But even going to the questions of, what do I love to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in a few random ones that I'm throwing in of my own volition, but what do I love to do? Who do I love to be? There's the doing and the being. There's something magical in delineating those. What can I get paid to do that I know people want, need, that I can uniquely deliver?
Yep.
Reflect on what you think the world needs, whether it's more of or less of, or something that's new. What are you fundamentally wildly good at? That gets into the idea of enjoyment theory, and some of the work I do with Harrison, we talk about enjoyment theory. If you love doing something, you're going to do it more often. You're going to get really, really good at it. You're going to have external affirmation and reward, and you'll have deep internal fulfillment. And so the cycle goes. You know what you love to do. Yeah. So why not lean into that more? So what are you really, really good at? And that self-acceptance piece, which you've just touched on, it's mind-blowing to me how many people I work with, and it transcends gender, whose self-acceptance scores on certain assessments and resources suffer and waver. The questioning of self-worth. What would it look like if you didn't question your self-worth and you loved who you were? What's in the way, and what do we need to do to get it out of the way?
Yep.
There's something in digging into self-worth and leaning into the power of who you are.
Yeah.
On purpose, of course. So there's a few reflection questions that someone could play with. As an organization, I'll make this simple. Please co-create it, whatever you do. Consider prioritizing it and experimenting with it and challenging conventional thinking and ways of doing things when trying to set the course for the future. 2, co-create it. Do not leave your people behind or out of the conversation, inside and out. Please consider other living beings. Mother Earth, she needs us to listen.
Yeah.
And connect to your unique value creation and bring your people into their strengths to deliver on that value creation and empower them to do it. Your money will follow.
Yeah, 100%. I just had another thought. Yeah, I love all of that. And we do need to wrap this up. But I also think that it might be completely appropriate to look at other people that led with purpose. And that's probably one of the reasons why I study as much as I do people. So if you think of, Martin Luther King Jr. or Mandela or,
Gandhi.
people that Gandhi, Dalai Lama, like these people had purpose. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody is, of service to all of the purpose out there, but there is something that can be learned from these great teachers that we have in history, in the past, in the present. There's something to be gleaned there.
I love that you're bringing this up because I think it gets into, there are other ways of knowing and being on this earth, tap into different cultural ways of knowing and being. What can you learn from them? Take the horse blinders off, free the horses, free your inner horse, and look at, I don't know, random, and look at, these other sources of wisdom and challenge what we think we know. Any other final thoughts?
I think we've said it all.
Okay. I know we talked about the mug giveaway. So let's give one away we'll do a random draw to the first 10 people who.
Well, I have a question. Okay. Maybe one, and then I have the person that answers the following question, but I'll let you finish.
Okay. So it'll be one of the first 10 people who comment. And we'd like
on YouTube.
So on our YouTube channel, on the Pithy Musings YouTube channel, and we do ask that we welcome any and all comments. We will ask for psychological safety.
Yep.
Pithy Musings is a space of psychological safety. If you have constructive feedback, bring it on. Make sure that it's in the container of psychological safety. And we appreciate that. So we will do that draw and we will be in touch, and you get to have one of these, maybe, if you're lucky. And what was your additional thought?
So that was one mug. The second mug will be the person who answers the following question on the Pithy Musings YouTube channel. The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. If you know what I'm talking about, and you fellow nerds will, you put that out there. So again, it's the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. You will get a mug because there is an answer.
Ooh, I'm curious, but I don't get to play. So thank you everyone for joining us on episode 4, Passion Does Not. 3. I'm so excited. For all I know, I feel like we've been doing this for like 100 years, but thank you for joining us for episode 3, Passion Does Not Equal Purpose. Do stay tuned for episode 4. It's right around the corner. Do we know what it is? No. Will we come up with it? There's going to be so many ideas. So if you want to keep putting the funk back into being human in your own universe, please do by subscribing to the YouTube channel, Pithy Musings. Make sure you don't miss out. And you can also find our playlist if you haven't. It's got lots of disco and funk faves. It's also called Spotify. And it's also called Pithy Musings. Can't miss it. You'll see a disco ball. If you have ideas and questions and you want to contact Carolyn or myself, Eva, directly, best thing to do is to go to our websites. You can go to Carolyn's website at talktalk.ca. You can go to my website at livewithfervor.com. And I think that's it. Until next time, stay pithy.
Keep musing.
Here we go.
Bye.